Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to another video of Be the Best DFS Daily Fantasy Sports. My name is Bradford Best, and today is Thursday, September 21st, 2017. And this is my Week 3 NFL video for the upcoming week on Fanduel as well as DraftKings. Quickly, a recap on Week 2. Week 2 was kind of down for me on DraftKings on the main slates. My top score was 127.44. None of my three lineups cashed. On FanDuel, I did a little better, but not as well as I would have liked. I had 5 lineups on the main slate. One of my lineups put up 133.58 points, and that lineup featured the Patriots stack of Tom Brady, Gronkowski, Philip Dorsett, and James White. So overall, week 2 really wasn't that good. But, moving past that, looking forward to week 3. There's some good games on the slate. So with that being said, let me get started talking about, my favorite plays, who I like for this upcoming week 3. Okay, as you know, when I begin my videos, I like to talk about my top stacks for the week. So I got 3 quarterback wide receiver combos that I really like this week. I think they can perform well. The first one is really one of the same ones I liked in week 2, and that's Matt Ryan and Julio Jones for the Atlanta Falcons. Matt Ryan is 8,500. Julio Jones is 9,300. They are at premium price points, but of all the games on the slate, this was the second highest total on the slate, with about 50.5 points, if I'm not mistaken. So the Vegas odds say it's going to be high scoring. The game is in an indoor dome stadium at Ford Field on the turf, where players typically tend to have more speed on the turf. Through the first 2 weeks of the season, Julio Jones has failed to reach the end zone. So in my mind, I feel he's due for a touchdown on this upcoming week. So I really do like Matt Ryan and Julio Jones as one of my top stacks for week 3. I will say that I think the cornerback from Detroit, I think his name is Darius Slay. He played well on Monday night. He's a pretty good defensive cornerback. But, Julio is arguably the best wide receiver in the league. And I feel like it doesn't matter what cornerback he's facing, he always has the potential to show out and have a big game. So I do like that as one of my top stacks for week 1. Another stack that I like is let me go to it. Another stack that I like is with the Redskins, and that's going to be Kirk Cousins at 7,600 and Terrell Pryor at 6,900. They're at a more favorable price than the Matt Ryan Julio Jones combo, but this game is projected to be the highest scoring game on the slate with the highest point total. I believe the point total was 53 points. Sorry, I got my notes. As of yesterday morning, the point total was 53.5 between Oakland at the Washington Redskins. Oakland, last year they didn't have a good defense. This year they have looked better, but they play some weak competition, especially in the Jets in week 2. So with the Washington Redskins at home, Kirk Cousins, a guy that like to pass the ball a lot, I think this is a week that Terrell Pryor, can get in a little groove. And to add on to it, there's a revenge narrative in it. Terrell Pryor, he played for the Cleveland Browns on last season, but prior to the Browns, he was playing with the Oakland Raiders. And if I'm not mistaken, when he first got to the Raiders, he probably was going to be a quarterback, and they kind of converted him to wide receiver. But anyway, I really do just like, this combination right here. Again, with it being the highest total on the slate, the offense is going to have to come from somewhere. So Kirk Cousins and Terrell Pryor, that's my number 2 top quarterback wide receiver combo stack for this upcoming week 3 slate. And the last quarterback wide receiver combo that I like for this week. I know a lot of y'all may disagree with this one, but I like Cam Newton and Kelvin Benjamin. Let me go to that lineup. Sorry, one moment. All right, Cam Newton is 8,100 and Kelvin Benjamin is 6,600. Through the first 2 weeks of the season, the Carolina Panthers offensively, they have been struggling. They played the Buffalo Bills, and I forgot who they played in week 1. I can't remember, but through the first 2 weeks of the season, Carolina, they really haven't. Oh, they played San Francisco. Their offense hasn't looked really impressive. Cam Newton, he hasn't looked sharp coming off his shoulder surgery. It's been quite frankly, it's been pretty bad. But if there's any team in the league that Cam Newton is going to get his act together against, it's the New Orleans Saints and the New Orleans Saints defense. If we just look at the first 2 weeks of the season, Sam Bradford had a great game versus the Saints, passed for like 3 or 4 touchdowns, and we saw what Tom Brady did against the Saints on last week. Over 400 yards passing, 3 or 4 touchdown passes. And if you just look at the rankings, according to Fanduel, the Saints are ranked 32nd overall in defense. That's at the very bottom. They're ranked 32nd versus the pass. That's also at the very bottom. And they're 25th versus the rush. But I know it's possible that Cam Newton just isn't back right from his shoulder surgery. But I'll take my chances on him. You know, putting 3 lineups out, I do like this combo. Another thing that I would like to add onto it, I think Greg Olsen's injury is key. Greg Olsen was one of Cam Newton's primary targets. And with him out on the injured reserve for about 8 weeks, I think that opens up more opportunities for Kelvin Benjamin. He's a tall wide receiver, a big body. So I think Kelvin Benjamin will be his prime target. And again, it's mainly because of the matchup. Not so much about Cam Newton and Benjamin, but it's just how bad I view the New Orleans Saints defense. So for my third top stack quarterback wide receiver combo for this week 3 is going to be Cam Newton and Kelvin Benjamin of the Carolina Panthers. Okay, I got my top 3 stacks out the way, so now I'm going to go position by position, just give a brief analysis of how I feel about other plays at each position. So starting off with the quarterback position, at the top you do have Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers, both great quarterback plays, but they're the 2 top price quarterbacks for this week. They're both at home, so they can easily have good games. But in my opinion, I think they're going up against some formidable defenses. Houston Texans have J.J. Watt and Jadeveon Clowney. He could make Tom Brady uncomfortable in the pocket. And also, Tom Brady, his ownership probably might be a little increased based off of what he did in week 2. So I know Tom Brady is great. I know he's great at home. I'm not going to put you off of him, but I'm going to say if you use Tom Brady, just keep in mind that, you know, he's going up against a team that have a good pass rush defensively. And now with Aaron Rodgers, he's great at home, but Cincinnati, Pac-Man Jones, he's a pretty good defender in the secondary. And Cincinnati, I saw in the Thursday night game last week, they got a good defensive lineman. If I'm not mistaken, I think his last name is Atkins. So Cincinnati, they have a pretty decent defense. So Aaron Rodgers, he could have a good game because he's Aaron Rodgers and it's at home in Green Bay. But keep in mind, Cincinnati is a legit defense. So that's my thoughts on those 2 plays. I'm not interested in Drew Brees. I think the Carolina Panthers defense has improved this season, so I'm not willing to go with Drew Brees this week. That's just me. I do like Derek Carr. Again, the Oakland Raiders at the Washington Redskins and the Atlanta Falcons at the Detroit Lions. Those are the 2 top total two top point total games on the slate. So it should be a lot of offense in those games. So I think Derek Carr is fine, as well as Matthew Stafford. I'm not going to use Matthew Stafford. I don't really want to use him. I just prefer to go with Matt Ryan. But Matthew Stafford, I think he's okay. But I will say that the Falcons, we do have a fast defense. Don't underestimate us. We could possibly shut him down. I'm not using Matthew Stafford, but I do understand the reasoning behind if you do want to use him. And the only other two quarterbacks that I think, that I would consider for this week if I was doing a lot of lineups, I'm only doing three. That would be Phillip Rivers and Alex Smith in that game. I'm looking at the point totals. The Vegas totals for that game is 47.5. But Phillip Rivers, he's a guy who like to pass the ball a lot. Let me retract my statement about Alex Smith. I'm not really sure about Alex Smith. I'm not sure what to think about him. But mainly, the three guys that I mentioned in my stacks, Matt Ryan, Cam Newton, and Kirk Cousins. But David Carr and Matthew Stafford, they're in play. And if the opposing defenses aren't of any concern to you, then Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers, they're in play. We all know, what kind of players they are. All right, I'm going to move on to the running back position. Running back. My top running back for this week, he was my top running back last week as well. Ezekiel Elliott, he burned me big time week 2. 8 yards rushing, that was completely horrible. But one of my top running backs this week is Jay Ajayi going up against the New York Jets. He's 8,200. According to the Fanduel ratings, the Jets are 32nd versus the rush. In week 2, Jay Ajayi, he had 30 touches, 28 rushing attempts, and 2 targets, two receptions. So, his usage is high. The Jets rank at the bottom versus the run. So I love Jay Ajayi for this week 3. He had a pretty good week 2. He just didn't get in the end zone. He had 122 yards rushing. So it's a lot to like about him. I'm definitely going to have exposure to Jay Ajayi. I like Devontae Freeman. Again, that's a game where there should be a lot of offense. So Freeman, I like him for the Falcons. I think he can really, take advantage of his speed in this game and get a lot of fantasy production. I think you can also consider Theo Riddick for value, because the Falcons, through the first 2 weeks of the season, they have struggled in defending the running back, with Chicago Bears rookie Cowan, having a big game. And then in week 2, Ty Montgomery had a big game as well. Now with Ty Montgomery, his price increased some. He's 7,200. I did get an alert that said they were going to decrease his workload, so that could be a cause of concern. And then again, Cincinnati, they have a pretty legit defense. So I'm not too big on Ty Montgomery this week, but Jay Ajayi, Devontae Freeman. See if I got anybody else I like. And Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt, he's in a great spot this week. I thought week 1 was a fluke, but I was wrong. And I think you definitely should have exposure to him. He's a dual threat running back, catch the ball out the backfield, a good rusher, has a knack for getting in the end zone. One of my friends pointed out to me that Andy Reid historically likes to utilize his running backs a lot in the offense. So Kareem Hunt, he's at a premium price this week of 8,300, but in a decent scoring total game against the Chargers, I think Kareem Hunt is a great play as well. There's a couple value plays that I wanted to talk about. It's going to be real important about the playing status of Rob Kelly for the Washington Redskins. If he is ultimately ruled out, then Chris Thompson and Perrine for the Washington Redskins, they instantly become some good value plays. Perrine is 5,600. Chris Thompson is 5,700. I like Chris Thompson in the passing game, so I would prefer him. But Perrine, he should get a lot of the rushing attempts. So you just kind of have to, pick or choose which one of those guys you like. So definitely monitor Rob Kelly, his injury status for this upcoming week. Another possible value play for this week. If DeMarco Murray, with that hamstring is unable to play, then Derrick Henry could become a good value play as well. He's priced at 6,400, so he could become a decent value play. Normally every week I do like Melvin Gordon, but I really don't want to mess with him this week. I kind of think Kansas City got a decent defense. And I learned my lesson. I said to count the wins as blessings, losses teach lessons. I learned my lesson on picking Ezekiel Elliott last week against the Denver Broncos. I won't make that mistake this week. McCoy, he could have a great game, a monster game. Who knows? He could go off, but I'm not messing with him. I can't do it. The Broncos, they shut down Ezekiel Elliott. I mean, shut him down. So I figured they'll do similar versus LaShawn McCoy. So y'all could play him, but I'm not messing with McCoy. Like I just learned a hard lesson picking Elliott versus the Denver Broncos. Let me not forget to mention Le'Veon Bell. He's playing against the Chicago Bears. What was good about Bell last week, he had 31 touches, 27 rushing attempts, and 4 targets. So he was utilized a lot in the offense, a high usage in the offense in week 2. His price is kind of premium. He probably will be low owned because he hasn't had a breakout game yet. So he could be a play, but I don't know if I'm gonna be using him yet. I'm still waiting to see him go off one game, but he's definitely getting the usage. 27 rushing attempts and 4 targets in week 2, over 30 touches. Definitely consider him for this week. I mentioned Theo Riddick in that Falcons game. I think he's okay, and I think that might be all as far as running backs that I feel are worth mentioning for this week 3 slate. Let's keep it moving. Let's talk about the good position, the wide receiver position. Wide receiver, again, I like the wide receivers that correlates with my 3 stacks. Julio Jones, Kelvin Benjamin, and Terrell Pryor. Those are my top 3. But outside of them, Antonio Brown, he's definitely in play. We know he's a big target guy. He didn't have that big of a game last week, but if you can afford Brown, you always have to consider him. I'm kind of off of Mike Evans. I think the Vikings have a decent defense, so not really interested in Mike Evans. I know he's a good player, but I'm just not interested in him. Jordy Nelson, I'm not interested in him neither. I think Pac-Man Jones might be lined up against him. So in that game, if Pac-Man Jones is lined up against Jordy, then I like Devontae Adams a little more in that game. But whoever Pac-Man Jones is checking, I like the other receiver pretty much. And I figure he'll probably be checking Nelson. So I do like Devontae Adams for the Green Bay Packers. I like him. Fanduel try to get a little tricky on us and put both Crabtree and Cooper at the exact same price. We all know Cooper had a great game on week 2, 29 fantasy points, 3 receiving touchdowns. So, the interest level in him is elevated this week. He's not going to sneak up on anyone. So, I think both wide receivers are good plays because that is supposed to be the highest scoring game on the slate. But maybe Cooper might be better for GPPs because he might garner lower ownership than Crabtree. I'm not sure. They're the same price. Not sure how that would play out. Brandon Cooks is in play because the Patriots, they have some injuries on their depth chart. I think Hogan and Amendola may be battling some injuries if I'm not mistaken. So Brandon Cooks, I think he's in play for a bounce back game. Hopkins, if you want to get real contrarian, I probably would prefer Hopkins more on DraftKings because of that PPR. I mean, that last game he played, he had 15 or 16 targets. So it looks like Deshaun Watson he had 13 targets. Yeah, 13 targets. So he had 29 targets between the first 2 weeks. They have a little extra rest because they played on Thursday night. The Patriots aren't that great of a defense, and it looked like Deshaun Watson don't want to throw it to anyone else but Hopkins. So as a contrarian play, I like DeAndre Hopkins. I'm not messing with the Bengals. Like AJ Green, he's a good player, but the Bengals, they have looked pathetic through the first 2 weeks of the season. I need to see more from them before I'm ready to go out there and start playing their players. Again, in that Falcons game, I'm not sure who's the number one target for Matthew Stafford, but Golden Tate and Marvin Jones Jr. They're both in consideration. And Devontae Parker of the Miami Dolphins at 6,500. I think he's a good play. We saw what Crabtree did to the Jets. I think Landry may have been battling a minor injury. So Devontae Parker, I like him. I like him as a tournament option. There's one value play that I wanted to talk about. Rashard Higgins for the Cleveland Browns, 5,100. The Browns' other receiver, I want to say his name is Coleman. I think he broke his hand. You know, he's on injury reserve. Higgins has moved up on the depth chart. In week 2, he had 11 targets for 7 receptions and 95 yards. He's playing against a Colts defense that isn't that great. It's in an indoor stadium on the turf. So Rashard Higgins, I really do like him for value at 5,100. Mainly their price, and I feel that he's going to have an increase in opportunities, you know, with the injuries that they have at the wide receiver position. But it's mainly the price. I really don't know much about Rashard Higgins, but for this week, daily fantasy, I think he provides great value. And I think that's the main plays I want to talk about at wide receiver. Again, my lineup's going to be centered around like the 3 from my stacks: Benjamin, Jones, and Pryor. But those other plays that I just mentioned, I like them as well. Now, tight end position. Tight end, you know, it's kind of like a thin position. I think your usual suspects are really good plays. I really like Travis Kelce. He's the top receiving option. Their wide receivers aren't even good for Kansas City. So Kelce, I love him against the Chargers. The Chargers aren't that great of a defense. The strengths of the Chargers defense are their cornerbacks. So their linebackers and safeties going to have to check Kelce. I love Kelce this week. He's probably my top tight end. I like Zach Ertz. He's a top target for Carson Wentz. He's had 18 targets within the first 2 weeks of the season. So Zach Ertz, I like him. I think he's in play. I guess you gotta like Gronk. You saw what he did last week. What was it? 20 fantasy points, 116 receiving yards. Just be aware of the injury concerns. I think he have a groin injury. So, just monitor that as you build your lineups. I like Gates for value. He got a touchdown on last week. He don't get a lot of yards, but if the Chargers get down there to the red zone, a lot of time Phillip Rivers look for Antonio Gates in the end zone. So I do like Antonio Gates for value. And one of my friends from the Facebook group kind of pointed out this guy. Shout out to Bodrian Jones. Where is he? the Cleveland tight end Njoku. He could be good value. He's 4,500. He got in the end zone on last week. Had 10.2 fantasy points. Not saying he's a great play, but if you need that extreme value against the Colts defense, Njoku 4,500. I believe he's a first round draft pick. I think he could be a nice value play. But tight end, it's kind of thin. Kelsey, Gronkowski, and Ertz. I think they're the top three. You have other plays in there that you can mix around in there. That's about it for all my skill positions. For me, with kickers, I kind of look at the game totals and try to pick kickers from those games. So I'll be looking at the game in Washington and the game in Detroit. There's Hopkins for the Redskins. The Oakland kicker, I can't even remember his name. Matt Bryant. Matt Bryant is the man. I love Matt Bryant for the Falcons. And Matt Prater for the Detroit Lions. Those probably some of the top kickers I like, but you really have to dig in and do research for those kickers. And team defense is something that's kind of hard to pick, because defense and special teams, and it's just something hard to predict. But I kind of like the Packers. I believe Cincinnati, they're just horrible. Andy Dalton, he's horrible. They fired their offensive coordinator. So I know it probably won't be popular, but Green Bay is someone that I'm considering. One of my friends mentioned the Philadelphia Eagles with how bad the Giants been looking. I can dig that. I think the Eagles are okay. The Patriots, simply because of the fact it's a rookie quarterback coming into Foxborough. The Dolphins could be in play because the Jets are pretty sorry. And you can't never ignore the Broncos. Their defense is legit. And it probably travels to the road too in Buffalo. So they're the highest priced one at 5,100. But you can't ignore, the Broncos defense, man. They something serious. But that's about it for this week 3. All the plays that I like for this upcoming week on Fanduel. I really didn't even get into DraftKings. I still got to work on that. But a quick overview, 3 stacks that I like, Cam Newton and Kelvin Benjamin, Matt Ryan and Julio Jones, and Kirk Cousins and Terrell Pryor. Those are 3 stacks I like. Going to build around those lineups. Jay Ajayi, he's definitely my top running back. Gotta like Kareem Hunt. There's different wide receivers that you can go over. But those are basically the gist of the plays that I like for week 3. I'm just trying to improve each week. FanDuel, got my high score up to 130 plus, so I'm gonna try to increase that this week. Got to get back on track on DraftKings, but it's gonna be fun. You just gotta put yourself in the best position to be successful. So I'm gonna put this video to a close. As always, I want to thank everyone who's taking the time out to like this video, and also for everyone who's subscribed to the YouTube channel. I really do appreciate all of the support. I'm on all social media. Just search the tag #BeTheBestDFS. You'll find me on Twitter, Instagram, of course YouTube, and also on Facebook. I have a Facebook group on there where I go live occasionally, and we do podcasts and just have discussions about all the daily fantasy, football, baseball, basketball. So make sure you look me up on all social media. Search the hashtag #BeTheBestDFS. Again, thank you for everyone who's taking the time out to view this video. And y'all know what the motto is. Always remember to count the wins as blessings, losses teach lessons. And I wish everyone much success this week on NFL Daily Fantasy Week 3. And as always try to be the best. I'll catch y'all next time. Thanks again. I'm out of here.